Welcome everyone to episode 3 of the HONESTea. And if you've been following for a while, you would know that we started with episode 0. So this is actually our 4th week, which I am so freaking proud of. And I honestly believe you should just celebrate everything, celebrate every milestone. I'm pretty proud of us for getting this far. Um, like it was just an idea that I've had for the longest time, and a beautiful friend of mine gave me that last little shove. And I've had so many wonderful people support me along the way, and and people have said, oh man, it was just a matter of time. But for me, I'm just so excited to be here and to talk to you about things that I'm passionate about, and that I get to do that is just fills my soul. And if you've been listening for a while, you will know that that's what this is all about. I am filling my cup. I am living my truth in the hope that it inspires you to live more of yours. That's my whole premise for this whole thing, is to turn up in the honestly, just authentically being who I am, right? And talking about all of the trauma tea, and because that's my jam. I love that stuff. And so the fact that I'm getting to do this, something that I love, I appreciate. And the fact that anybody turns up, I appreciate. One person turns up, I'm stoked for it. If one person gives me some good feedback, I'm amazed with it. And I believe everyone's here to teach us. So even if it's not so great, then that's okay too. So, off the back of last week's episode, we really talked about like the real tea on self-love. And I sort of feel like the other side of that coin is around being unbothered. And I think there's I forgot his name now, but there's a guy that everybody talks about in terms of manifestation, and he talks about the art of allowing. And for me, I know, hey, listen, people who follow him, God, I can't remember. He's actually amazing, but I just can't remember. He's from in the 60s or 70s, I think. Anyway, he talks about the art of allowing. Neville Goddard, that's it. But for me, the art of allowing, and I'll be honest, I don't know, I'm not a guru on Neville Goddard, but for me, the art of allowing, and is probably maybe a little bit different, and I would call it being unbothered. And what does it really mean to be unbothered? So it's really what it is taking back your power, right? So when something happens to you, when a person does something or a situation happens in your life and you're unbothered about it, when you find that place of neutrality, that is your place of power. So, I've worked with this amazing gentleman who I actually adore. I think he's just the best. And I've worked with a few people like this, and he just happens to be one that sticks in my mind, because he's just exactly who he was always meant to be, and he's so unbothered now. But he didn't come in unbothered. He really struggled with, people would take his parking spot, he'd get out and go off at them in the parking lot, or, he was one of those people that was yelling out of his car, or he'd go over and have a strong word to the neighbours, all of those kinds of things. And the thing is that, we see people like that and we start to think like they're kind of jerks, and he absolutely wasn't a jerk, but he just felt like so hard done by and so wronged by life. And he was showing up in his wounds. And so when people would bother him in any small way, he would feel this need. His nervous system response was obviously fight, and he would feel this need to fight for his rights, to be heard, to get the parking space, to not hear noise through the walls from the neighbours, or whatever it was, anything. If the council did anything, he would be down there having a strongly worded conversation, and he was just always in this nervous system response, which his was fight. But what would happen is that he would give away his power to that person or that situation by acting like a pork chop, right? So he would be going off, and even though he felt hard done by because he'd been waiting for a parking spot, for example, and somebody would come in and take that spot, even though he was in the right, he felt like he was in the right, he would get out and start this confrontation, and the other person wouldn't react at all, and he would look like the one that was in the wrong, right? Because then who looks like a bit of a jerk? You do. What I want to explain to you is every time you do that, when you lose it, when you're in traffic and you're furious because there's too many cars and you're trying to get somewhere, anytime that you're angry with a person or a situation, or you're mortified, or you're embarrassed, or you're upset, or whatever it is, you are giving your power away to that person, place, situation, right? So when you react, when you behave, when you can, carry on in a way, you are giving them your power. You are giving away your power to that person, place, or situation. And a lot of people will say, oh, they made me. Nobody can make you, can they? Because if they can, you've absolutely given away your power. If somebody can make you behave in a way that you don't like, if somebody can force you to do something you don't like, you have absolutely given away your power then, right? 100%. So when people, I often talk to couples, and one will say, or they both say, she makes me do this. He forces me to do that. Absolutely not. You always have a choice. You do have a choice, but you are saying, you are giving away your power and saying, no, I don't have a choice. Absolutely, we always have a choice. It's just that sometimes when we say we don't have a choice, more often than not, what it means is, I don't want to. That choice feels uncomfortable. It's going to take me out of our comfort zone. And more often than not, we will choose what I call our comfortable hell. We would rather choose our comfortable hell than to choose something that feels out of our comfort zone, even if it's hell, right? It's, like I talked a little bit about my previous relationship, and how I kept choosing that hell, even though I knew that it was bad, but there was I didn't want to be out of my comfortable hell. My comfortable hell was that I wanted people to believe that I had this happy family, and I wanted to be a believe for myself that I could end up being a happy family, that I could end up being happy in this relationship, that he would be happy in this relationship, that we would be a family, that all of those things, and it just was never going to happen, or it didn't happen. Is probably what a better way to say it. It didn't happen, and that was because I was always losing my power to that situation, as was he. But we do that so many times, where we just lose ourselves to the situation. It's also can be when it's not just confrontation, right? It doesn't always look confrontational. So we can, whenever we choose a behavior, so we could choose to leave the space. If you're one of those people where every time there's a confrontation you leave, and so you never deal with it, which is your flight response, by the way, then that is another autonomic nervous response, and that still does not mean you're unbothered. Just because you leave does not mean you're unbothered, right? As anybody would know who has that stress response, you probably are going and overthinking that more than anybody else in that situation. You're the one who's going to go home, think about it for days on end. Again, you are giving your power away to that situation. So what if we could just allow for that situation to be as it is, for that person to be as they are, and then to choose how we behave, how we react, to respond rather than reacting. to choose a place of neutrality, to choose to be unbothered, to choose to understand that they are teaching us something, to choose. We have the power to choose. We are not being forced to live in any kind of way. We actually get the power to choose. And you are able to choose how you react, how you behave in any situation. Nobody is forcing you. No situation is forcing you to do anything. You still get to choose. Even people who are imprisoned, right? Like Nelson Mandela, he said he was free in his mind, right? So you still always have a choice about how you respond in any given situation. And that is your place of power. When you can, you don't have to be positive. A lot of people, I've talked a little bit about toxic positivity. When you're feeling like, oh my God, that situation is really awful. And maybe you're feeling like hell. Maybe it is fucking the most worst thing that's ever happened to you. And life gets on us and it does this stuff to us. So I get it, it's hard. And I'm not saying that we get into toxic positivity because, when you're feeling like hell and somebody says, you just got to be more positive. It's like, oh, fuck off. Who wants to be more positive? I can't. I'm just in this really shitty place. But what I'm saying is, it's the resilience, right? So if you are in this hellhole place where you feel like shit and something really awful's happened, you can choose how you behave and how you respond and what you believe about that situation to be true, and that's your place of power. You don't have to choose to be in despair, to be in grief, to be in judgment, to feel less than, right? And how we do this, one of the most powerful tools is to just allow people to be who they are. What if we allowed people to be who they were? What if we just said, it's okay? You know what? A lot of, and I know for me, growing up in church and a religious background, and also a lot of my friends and, Polynesians, Pasifika, Māori, a lot of us are brought up in, very much in religious backgrounds, and that often does come with a load of judgment. And that's why what I want to say is I believe deeply in God. I have a spiritual relationship with my God and my Creator that I've never had before. And it took for me to get to the depths of how I feel like to get to a place where I have this beautiful relationship with God. And my belief is that it is religion that gives us judgment. And when we can drop the judgment of ourselves and of other people, that gives us that place of neutrality and unbotheredness, right? Because we can just allow people to do, be, have whatever they want. What if you could live and truly love God and drink wine? Because that's what I do. And right now, this version of me, I fucking love going out for wine with my girlfriends. And I fucking love God. Yep. I love the Creator. And I say fucking. And it's still okay with me. And if it's not okay with you, I'm unbothered about it. I couldn't give a shit. Because that's the place of my power. Is when I take back my power and I say, I'm okay with every version of me as I am right now. Now, maybe down the track, I'm going to decide, well, alcohol's not for me. Now, and the other thing I want to say is alcohol is a thing. It's a situation, right? And when we say, oh, we're going, it makes everyone, so we put a blanket rule, everyone is bad when they drink alcohol. Well, that's just actually not true. Or we will judge people for being out of wedlock, or for the way that they dress, or for the people they love, or for not behaving in a way that we feel they should behave in a certain situation, And this is the thing. The place of unbotheredness is for you to just allow. The art of allowing, from my perspective, what I call the art of allowing, is allowing everybody in your life, even people you come across, to just be who they are. Allow people to be who they are. And allow yourself to be who you are. Be unbothered by situations and places and people and things. And I will tell you from my own place of peace and neutrality that the more you choose that, the less often you'll have to choose it. And what I mean by that is every time you choose this unbothered, life stops giving you bothered. God, spirit, all that is. I don't mind what you call your God, your creator, you can choose whatever you like. The label isn't as important as the meaning, and same for me, right? I'm not worried about labels either. I've probably been called a lot worse. So from my perspective, I'm unbothered. And the more unbothered I've become in my life, the less life turns up with a bother. So the more unbothered I've become with my relationships, the less bothered I am. Does that mean we don't set boundaries? Absolutely not. Does it mean we sacrifice ourselves? Absolutely not. We can live in our two things can be true at the same time. We can live in our truth and we can be unbothered. We can set boundaries and we can choose peace. All of those things can be true, right? And so that's what I want to talk about. So to be unbothered means to allow for other people to be themselves, to stop judging other people and what they do, because that judgment, that pushing down, that telling people they need to behave in a certain way or act in a certain way when they're around you, or you don't like whatever they're doing, that's the place of separateness, right? That's where we become separate. But when we choose to say, hey, I can allow you to be who you are. Now, if you don't like what they do, doesn't mean you have to stay in their space, right? And I'm not saying you're accepting everything they do. Acceptance is not the same as allowing. I can allow you to do what you do. Am I going to stay in your space while you do it? Hell no. But I can allow you to do it, and I'm okay with it. I'm just going to allow you to do it over there where I'm not, but that's still okay. And, we are, there is more good in the world than there is bad. I truly believe that. I believe that human beings are incredible, amazing, wonderful souls. And the other thing I want to say is when we try to, I've seen this a lot, where people try to control other people by telling them, you need to act like this, and you need to turn up like this, and you need to do this for me. When you do that, and certainly I've been like that in my relationship. And same with my husband's been like that with me, like you need to act like this, and you need to behave like this, and anything that feels restrained, anything that feels like disingenuous to ourselves is going to fight back, right? Is going to go eventually like, I've had enough of this, or like, and it's going to feel so awful for both of you. But when you choose it, right? When you choose, that's a different thing. When you choose, and I've talked a lot about choosing in the previous episode, so I'm going to go, but you can choose to be of service. That's a different thing. So I really believe that your path to peace is around being completely unbothered by other people, how they do what they do, how they behave, being unbothered by situations, right? Things that turn up in your life. And I know sometimes they are big things, right? But don't let the small shit get to you, right? Sitting in traffic, I'm trying to think of small things now and I can't think of anything, but there's lots of small things that happen in your life. And the reason why I can't think of things is because I'm truthfully unbothered by things these days. So I can't really think of things. But if you just are unbothered, more and more unbothered by small things, start with small things. And when bigger things come, they're going to knock you sideways. And yes, I absolutely doesn't mean that you deny it. Doesn't mean you get, into toxic positivity. But it means that you're going to find a place of resilience and peace a lot faster. And it's going to feel easier. And I promise you, you will start to attract less and less situations that do bother you. And so it won't be so difficult to choose to be unbothered when people are doing things that frustrate you. So I hope that that just gives you some clarity around being unbothered, taking back your power. That's empowerment, right? That is what empowerment means. To be empowered is to take back your power and not give it away to a situation or a person or a thing. To really own it and be unbothered, be in a place of neutrality. I hope that this has resonated with you. I hope that it's helped you. I love bringing this podcast to you, and my intention is to continue to do that, to continue to sing my own song, my own melody, in the hope that you're going to find yours, and that we're all going to find a place where we can be that one big orchestra, all led by our divine creator, and that you become more of yourself every day, and that you love more of who you are. That's my intention for this podcast. This is my intention for you. And I want to leave you with my final thought, as always, which is heal deeply, lead boldly, live fully. And I appreciate you, and I love you more than you will ever know. Thank you, thank you, thank you for tuning up again in our 4th week and our episode 3. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. Mwah!